Well, we've heard the state of the union and the state of our state, but let's get more specific and more regional. What is the state of education in the St. Louis area? Tonight we'll hear from educators in the classroom, Missouri's top education official, and more. And it's not all bad news. We even have a little breaking news. So stay tuned. And our thanks to two principals who are joining the conversation here. Dr. Beth Bender, principal at Gateway STEM High School, and Dale Burgdorf, principal at Jennings High School. Back with us still, Margie Van Dieven. Okay.
Pretty much just hope for support as well, with continuing to work with universities for training programs for teachers, continue to look for new ways to train teachers, new avenues to gain assistant principals and those individuals as well. But again, you know, as Dr. Bender said, we don't sit around and think about that kind of stuff. We concentrate on what we can handle within our own buildings. You know, it's great that we have conversations and they allow us time to meet as principals and you know, be part of those conversations. But I think just the support mainly is just there.
You said taking care of business. You are taking care of some business in the Jennings School District. Brag on yourself for a second, because this you're teetering on the unaccreditation line there for a while, but the scores have turned around. What gives? How did you pull it off? How are you continuing to pull it off?
Remember, it's not just me, Casey. It's a lot of folks. We have lots of new folks, but we have also lots of folks who have just said, you know what, all kids can learn, and this is what we're going to do to make that happen. We take a very strong look at our data. We spend a lot of time on data, but at the same time, we spend a lot of time on what do our kids need. You know, we have washers and dryers in every building. Parents can come wash clothes, so students are not out of school for uniforms. This spring, the high school will have the spot will be a clinic there on campus, so that eventually, as that program rolls out, kids don't have to lose school time to be seen or to get medical needs met or just to get some counseling. You know, we partner with Youth in Need to make sure that social workers are in place. All of our students are getting wraparound services. Everybody has their needs met, and then education becomes that other thing you do when you're there. Working really hard on attendance and making sure that students at Jennings understand you're going to come to school first, because that leads to bigger and better things. You know, we take a very strong approach. We look at our curriculum. You know, elementaries and middle schools, the curriculum is 1 year ahead. High school, we are really concentrating on what are our kids missing, and how do we as educators fill those gaps, and how do we push for that career-ready person who's going to leave our building ready to do whatever, whether it's college, whether it's military, or whether it's the career path. Are they ready, and are they ready in each area? So that's really what we're concentrating on, and we are really finding big gains.
You, from around the, just to brag on you a little bit for yourself, it was around the 50% area. Now it's closer to 79, 80% when the states are scoring your schools.
It is.
But I think there's, you know, a lot of value in looking at understand. You know, people want to know. People want to understand how are the schools doing. It's not just the teacher anymore that's paying, or even just one individual parent. They want to know how is my school doing? How's the district doing? How are we doing? We want to know how are we doing as a state. So there's some value. Yes, there's some climate and culture that we need to look at around testing, and how do we make it very, very meaningful. If we're collecting data and just collecting data, that's of no use to anyone. We're really using the data, and we have to reflect upon how what happened today and what we're looking at today impacts tomorrow. And teaching kids to do it too. I mean, I think that's the change that I've seen the most. Is teaching. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. That's one of the things that we're doing too. Is having students track their own data. You know, making sure they understand and they take buy-in into where our accreditation falls. You know, we've challenged all the teachers at Jennings High this semester that they're all going to have students in their classrooms track their data. We've had teachers doing it in small pockets and seeing great results out of it. It becomes a competition. We're all competitive, no matter what grade you're in or where you are. So we're data saturated, but I do think a lot of it is good data. You know, if my students at Jennings High don't score well on the ACT, it affects which colleges they can go to. That's part of my job as the leader of that building, is to make sure that their scores get them anywhere they want to go. And that's something to be said in the community.
And I guess if I could just quickly add, when we're talking about data to the general public who might be watching this tonight, we're not talking about just getting numbers back. What we're looking at, and I heard Tiffany Anderson present to our board last week, who beautifully went through how you look at the individual strand of what kids know and are able to do. So you understand, okay, this child can add up to 3-digit numbers, and this whole group here is not quite reaching that. So what's happening? So it's really not looking at, I want to be clear, it's not, when we talk about data, we're not just talking about a number. We're talking about instructional practice and what do we need to...
What they've mastered,
yes,
what they
right,
haven't mastered. If they have achieved certain standards, then we know we can move on, instead of in the old days, you just moved on. So I think it makes us much more reflective.
Well, you washers and dryers, you said.
Washers and dryers, warming centers on cold days when we don't have school because we don't have buses. But the schools are still open because students still have to eat. And we are very aware in Jennings that a lot of our students, the only time that they get at least 2 full meals for the day is days that school's in session. So we've opened a food pantry for our community over the last 2 years. It's grown in leaps and bounds every month that it's opened. So it is very wraparound. I want to go back to charters just a second. We push each other. Dr. Bender and I, we talk about scores. When we see each other as principals, it's a different conversation now as a high school principal than it was a few years ago. So even with charter schools, it's still I'm still competitive. But it's still, I think our teachers and our administrators need to hear that. When parents have a choice, what am I going to do at my high school to make sure my parents don't want to choose anywhere else? They do have Lutheran North. It's right up the street from Jennings. What do I do so that my parents don't choose Lutheran North? It is things like make sure that my ACT scores are growing, make sure that I have college access classes so that my kids can get the same avenues that other students can get, so that they don't choose anywhere else. They come right to their home school. It should. And I also want to go back to what James was saying. I think, to be honest with you, if we spend a lot more time training our teachers and putting our money in them and their training and the wraparound services that one individual can, and the relationships that one individual can build, I think it's not going to matter where that school is located or what socioeconomic status that student comes from. Their success will be the same. And I think, it might be a dream world that I live in, but I do believe that. I think that relationships play that large of a role in our educational society, and I think that as long as we continue to hire teachers, and we're trying our best to do that at Jennings, is hire teachers that will give you 125% all the time, and don't take no for an answer that a kid says, well, I just can't do that. No, that's not. We're going to find a way for you to do that. I think that is going to carry us all the way and continue to raise our schools and continue to raise our communities.
And the leadership to support those teachers.
Absolutely.
And I'll just add one little thing, and that is that I was at Jennings Junior High today, and the comment was made, a student wants to go into nursing, and she never thought that was possible until it was a field trip that their teachers took her on and it exposed her to a larger aspiration like you're talking about right there. So thank you all very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching, too.